Hello, I'm Cara Dahl Russell, and today our topic is a return to paganism, the Wiccan Repost, part of our series Courtly Love and the Cult of the Virgin. Imagine that we are archaeologists 2,000 years in the future. We unearth two large golden arches and nearby a Barbie doll. People who hear about the discovery immediately assume that we have unearthed proof that Americans worshipped a fertility goddess, and the symbol of the place of worship is two large golden breasts in the sky. While it may be an amusing commentary on our culture, we know that neither is true. Well, this is the kind of example that archaeologists and teachers of ancient culture use to demonstrate that while many people assume the worship of a fertility goddess in multiple world cultures, we actually have no historical evidence of the worship of a fertility goddess. Even in the Greek cultures that had groups of women devotees involved, historians have never found the pieces that would form a complete link from one piece to another. This is in direct contrast to other religions where they have found the symbols, but they have also found multiple other links, including texts, to clarify how the pieces fit and what the practices were. Similarly, returning to our time period between 1000 and 1200, we have the representations of the Black Madonna, medieval statues of Mary that are characteristically dark or black in color. These have remained a bit of a mystery to scholars over the centuries. It was thought possible that the Black Madonnas replaced images of Diana, pointing out that other images of Madonna and Child closely resemble those of the ancient Egyptians Isis and Horus. In this light, the dark skin of the Black Madonnas may serve as an ethnic representation of the original Egyptian image. Some scholars even argued that the coloring of the Black Madonnas was meant to be an historically accurate depiction of a Middle Eastern Mary. It was not until the mid-20th century that researchers discredited the hypothesis that pollution, fire damage, and other sorts of destruction were the cause of Mary's black features. Today, many people involved in ethnic studies insist that these are representations of an African origin of Mary. But most other scholars are equally adamant that ethnicity is not a valid theory. The depictions of Mary in Asia or Africa do have coloring and also the features of their respective populations, but not so with the dark representations of European Marian sculptures. Today's British Wiccan culture, a culture which completely subscribes to the fertility goddess theories, assert that this is another pagan representation, asserting that Black Madonnas are black because they are found where they replaced goddesses associated with the underworld, like Artemis, Isis, Persephone, and others. It is true that Black Madonnas were often found in the territory of the Roman Empire, France, Italy, Portugal, Spain, where their color may represent a connection to the underworld. There are many recorded instances of Black Madonnas being found in crypts as well, hence the underground, in churches. Italian Black Madonnas have been correlated with the pagan shrines of Circe, who was the Greek goddess of agriculture, fertility, and motherly relationships. The darker tones may suggest an earthy, green goddess tone to the Madonna, rather than its lighter-skinned counterpart's representation of chastity and purity. Wiccans also assert that while white Madonnas became associated with virginity, purity, and maternal goodness, that Black Madonnas represent the fertility goddess and the sensual nature of womanhood, connecting associated fertility miracles after prayer to a Black Madonna. It is true that the locations of the Black Madonnas were places of pilgrimage for those who prayed for miracles, often fertility in humans, agriculture, and domestic animals. However, miracles of fertility have been credited at many other shrines, so once again, it cannot be presumed that fertility is exclusive to Black Madonnas. So the question remains, why are the Black Madonnas black? One possible explanation can be traced back to the Old Testament in the Song of Solomon. In one scripture, a maiden states, "I am black but comely." Because of this scripture, it could have been perceived as acceptable to depict the Virgin Mary as black. The most specific proof of this theory can be found on a French Black Madonna in Mende that has the very quote described. But this quote could also have been attached to excuse the use of an unusual representation. Of course, sometimes the simplest explanation is best. Perhaps the darker woods and jewels were the most rare, the most precious, and it was simply that this rare, precious material was dedicated for this use as an offering, and the color was never intended to be an issue, but simply the rarity and beauty of the material. This is known to be the case for the reliquary statue of the child Sainte Foi, Saint Faith of Conques, which dates back before 1010. Folklore has it that the dark, gilded face, darker than the rest of the gilding, is not even hers, but meant to be a portrait of either a Roman emperor or Charlemagne. And in yet another connection to Queen Eleanor in our series, Sainte Foi's story dates back to the Roman persecution of Christians in the region of Aquitaine. Art historians know that trying to figure out a purpose or the artist's intention in works of art is always fraught with speculation. Whatever their inception, these Black Madonnas date back before the 1100s, with over 180 of them in France alone. They were an intrinsic part of the rise of Marian representation and worship, and their mystery has only added to their continued value and reverence in the veneration of Mary.